So speaking of writing, you have a personal blog called Little Might, which I thought was a funny name. I'm assuming it's because you're little. Is that
Yeah.
is that like?
I always feel like I get underestimated, and I kind of liked surpassing people's expectations. So that's why it was like
That's where the name
Little
came
Might.
from. That's
Also,
good.
I didn't want to have like my name as my domain, and I don't know why. I think before it was like it's easier to have like a alter ego that you can talk about successful things with
Mm-hmm.
rather than my own personal name.
Mm-hmm. I feel like everyone goes through that conundrum with their blog. Should I name
Yeah.
it myself or name it like?
And my name, Cathryn, is spelled like nobody really spells it that way. And
Mhm.
so I don't have to spell my name all the time. It's like Little Might, you just know how to spell it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I didn't know that's so I was called that. Why do you write articles and post videos and stuff online? Like, what effect does it have for you? Is it fun for you, or it's for your audience? It gets people to buy more. Like, what's the reason?
So I started the writing probably in like 2013.
Mm.
And so I just liked sharing what I was doing and what I knew. Because for me, like growing up, like I went to architecture school and I had a very like normal like path. I had an eBay store when I was 14 and I sold stuff on the playground when I was 7, but I didn't actually know you could have a business as a job because I just didn't know anyone that did that. And so for me, I was like, if I had known that it was possible, I would have maybe done things a little differently. And so I kind of want people to see, oh, this person didn't go to business school or like was an architect and like took this path and like did all the things that you're supposed to do, but then completely took another path, and then this is what came from it. So I think just sharing also the mistakes that I've made and like here's how you do stuff. Like I have some people that I went to high school with that we weren't really friends. We weren't not friends, but we weren't close. And so sometimes they'll reach out to me on Facebook and they'll just be like, oh, I started this like business thing. And I'm like, great. And I'm like super excited because clearly like there's just not a lot of role models as far as like that's your path.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get a job. And when I quit my architecture job, it was like, oh my God, Cathryn's going on a midlife crisis. And so I just kind of want to show people what's possible because, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have created the jobs that I've done, and I would still be, slogging away, like working 80 hours a week and making like $40K a year.
That's pretty awesome. Have you made friends through your blog?
Yeah. I've made friends through my blog and through Twitter. So it's like, and it's funny the amount of people that will respond to emails. Like I just wrote a newsletter last week talking about like a business partner buyout and some of the issues that I was having, and the amount of responses I got of like, because I hadn't been writing much because there was so much that I couldn't really talk about, and so I wasn't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all these people that some of them I don't even know. One guy was like, said some like very true things, and I'm like, holy shit, like we don't even know each other, and you were able to like read through the stuff that I've been putting out for a long time. So I have met people both through Twitter and through my blog.
That's amazing. Me and our
Actually,
mutual friend, go ahead.
This girl, Elizabeth, she read some of my Kickstarter posts and then ended up launching a Kickstarter that I helped her with or like coached her beginning with. And then she launched this company called Little Nomad, which now is House of Noah, and she was on Shark Tank. And we've met up like a bunch of times in real life. And now we're like actual friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that started from like, all she did was send me an email and say, oh, I applied exactly what you said and I got these results. And I was like, holy shit, tell me more about this. And so when someone does what you say and just tells you how it went, you're like, okay, how can I help you more? And so I love those type of emails of like just sharing what they've actually done that's worked rather than, okay, how should I do this? Or they don't actually take the advice that you give them, and they keep asking more questions.
Yeah. I think a lot of people now start a blog and they'll do how-to advice like right away. I'm just like, I guess like Gary Vaynerchuk always says, like just document your stuff. It's kind of more interesting.
Well, that's what I do, because I always just, when I first got into like entrepreneurship, it would kind of drive me mad. It was like coaching people how to coach people how to quit their job to coach people how to quit their job. And so I had another Shopify store before, so all I would do is I would just be like, this is what I'm doing, this is how it works, and that I think that for me works better than pretending I know what I'm doing all the
I
time.
think especially for someone beginning. Like
Yeah.
I'll have a lot of people, I want to write about writing also, and they'll be like, howtowrite.com or whatever. And I'm just like, but you don't know how to write. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of just talk about yourself maybe. I realize that with my own blog, I've met most of my close friends that way, outside of like childhood friends and stuff like that. So like Noah, Sam, all these people, it's because of my blog originally.
Well, I know you through your blog.
There you go. Yeah, it's like most of our friends, we all know each other through blogs, which is like kind of hilarious. It used to be almost kind of like a weird thing to say that 10 years ago. Now you're like, of course you met through your blogs. I don't know. Yeah, how else would you meet? You've got a lot of other people to write because you have a journal, so you get other people to write. I'm always curious about this. Like, what happens when you write something down? Like, why is it better? I always wonder because sometimes I'll type notes, but for some reason, the act of writing it in like a journal or a piece of paper, I always make to-do lists that are physical. There's something about it. Like, do you have any insight on like what happens?
Well, I think there's been scientific studies about like the act of writing something rather than typing something it's a lot more physical because you're literally like using the pen, you're like seeing it. You're using all of your senses. And when it's a computer, there's like this kind of wall between you. And so I always write things down and then I'll transfer it into like notes because I used to take notes like on a computer, never look at them again.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have to write something, you're kind of reading as you write it and then you're physically writing it. So there's just a lot more it's just like feels real, unlike typing into a computer.
Yeah, I think it just takes more time or something too.
Yeah, I actually got a typewriter Bluetooth keyboard.
Like a mechanical one?
I mean, and it's like annoying, so I don't use it when Emily's home. But if you put, what I like about it is it feels more like real than a keyboard. And so sometimes when I'm writing and I also want to disconnect from like going on other apps, I'll literally like put my iPad and like just be typing on this typewriter.
The typewriter. It's like old school technology mixed with
it's like a Bluetooth typewriter.
Yeah, because I use a lot of I use all sorts of different note-taking apps. I think they all have their own little pros and cons. So like Apple Notes just is like great with all my Apple products, but then there's not too many features in it.
Yeah.
So then I also use Notion to like share stuff with the team. Then we have like Slack somewhere. Then I have tons of notebooks that I have, which are like my prized possessions for some reason. And some people just love like writing in a notebook. So I guess that's how the journal stuff started. Like when you write something down, it becomes more real.
Yeah, and just the act of like even on your calendar, like I see stuff on my calendar, but I still will put it into my journal because when you see a white space in there or when you see, it's easy for time to just like kind of slide by, especially on your calendar if it's only by appointment style and so not by like showing you the whole day. And so when I put it into my actual like self-journal, there's like a physical representation of a time block that I could get something done, unlike being on the computer.